Ferrari. Ferrari S.p.A. Italian. Ferrari is an Italian luxury sports car manufacturer based in Maranello, Italy. Founded by Enzo Ferrari in 1939 out of the Alfa Romeo race division as Auto Avio Costruzioni, the company built its first car in 1940 and produced its first Ferrari-badged car in 1947. Fiat S.p.A. acquired 50% of Ferrari in 1969 and expanded its stake to 90% in 1988. In October 2014, Fiat Chrysler Automobiles S.p.A. announced its intentions to separate Ferrari S.p.A. from FCA. As of the announcement, FCA owned 90% of Ferrari. The separation began in October 2015 with a restructuring that established Ferrari N.V, a company incorporated in the Netherlands as the new holding company of the Ferrari S.p.A. group, and the subsequent sale by FCA of 10% of the shares in an IPO and concurrent listing of common shares on the New York Stock Exchange. Through the remaining steps of the separation, FCA interest in Ferrari's business was distributed to shareholders of FCA, with 10% continuing to be owned by Piero Ferrari. The spin-off was completed on 3 January 2016. Throughout its history, the company has been noted for its continued participation in racing, especially in Formula One, where it is the oldest and most successful racing team, holding the most constructors' championships 16, and having produced the highest number of drivers' championship wins 15. Ferrari road cars are generally seen as a symbol of speed, luxury, and wealth. Ferrari cars are built at the 165,000 square meter, 16.5 hectare Maranello factory. In 2014, Ferrari was rated the world's most powerful brand by Brand Finance. In June 2018, a 1963 250 GTO became the most expensive car in history, setting an all-time record selling price of $70 million. As of 2021, Ferrari is the 10th largest car manufacturer by market capitalization, with $52.21 billion. History. Enzo Ferrari was not initially interested in the idea of producing road cars when he formed Scuderia Ferrari in 1929 with headquarters in Modena. Scuderia Ferrari, pronounced Scuderi, literally means Ferrari stable and is usually used to mean Team Ferrari. Ferrari bought, prepared, and fielded Alfa Romeo racing cars for gentleman drivers, functioning as the racing division of Alfa Romeo. In 1933, Alfa Romeo withdrew its in-house racing team and Scuderia Ferrari took over as its works team. The Scuderia received Alfa's Grand Prix cars of the latest specifications and fielded many famous drivers such as Tazio Nuvolari and Achille Varzi. In 1938, Alfa Romeo brought its racing operation again in-house, forming Alfa Corse in Milan, and hired Enzo Ferrari as manager of the new racing department. Therefore, the Scuderia Ferrari was disbanded. In September 1939, Ferrari left Alfa Romeo under the provision he would not use the Ferrari name in association with races or racing cars for at least 4 years. A few days later, he founded Auto Avio Costruzioni, headquartered in the facilities of the old Scuderia Ferrari. The new company ostensibly produced machine tools and aircraft accessories. In 1940, Ferrari produced a race car, the Tipo 815, based on a Fiat platform. It was the first Ferrari car and debuted at the 1940 Mille Miglia, but due to World War II it saw little competition. In 1943, the Ferrari factory moved to Maranello, where it has remained ever since. The factory was bombed by the Allies and subsequently rebuilt, including works for road car production. The first Ferrari-badged car was the 1947 125S, powered by a 1.5 L V12 engine. Enzo Ferrari reluctantly built and sold his automobiles to fund Scuderia Ferrari. The Scuderia Ferrari name was resurrected to denote the factory racing cars and distinguish them from those fielded by customer teams. In 1960, the company was restructured as a public corporation under the name Fiat S.p.A. Society Esercizio Fabbriche Automobili e Corse. Early in 1969, Fiat took a 50% stake in Ferrari. An immediate result was an increase in available investment funds, and work started at once on a factory extension intended to transfer production from Fiat's Turin plant of the Ferrari-engined Fiat Dino. New model investment further up in the Ferrari range also received a boost. In 1988, Enzo Ferrari oversaw the launch of the Ferrari F40, the last new Ferrari launched before his death later that year. In 1989, the company was renamed Ferrari S.p.A. From 2002 to 2004. Ferrari produced the Enzo, their fastest model at the time, which was introduced and named in honor of the company's founder, Enzo Ferrari. It was to be called the F60, continuing on from the F40 and F50, but Ferrari was so pleased with it, they called it the Enzo instead. It was initially offered to loyal and recurring customers, each of the 399 made minus the 400th, which was donated to the Vatican for charity, had a price tag of $650,000 apiece, equivalent to £400,900. On 15 September 2012, 964 Ferrari cars worth over £162,099.95 million attended the Ferrari Driving Days event at Silverstone Circuit and paraded round the Sil. Ferrari's former CEO and chairman, Luca di Montezemolo, resigned from the company after 23 years, who was succeeded by Amedeo Felisa, and finally on 3 May 2016 Amedeo resigned and was succeeded by Sergio Marchionne, CEO and chairman of Fiat Chrysler Automobiles, Ferrari's parent company. In July 2018, Marchionne was replaced by board member Louis Camilleri as CEO and by John Elkann as chairman. On 29 October 2014, the FCA Group, resulting from the merger between manufacturers Fiat and Chrysler, announced the split of its luxury brand, Ferrari. The aim was to turn Ferrari into an independent brand, 10% of whose stake would be sold in an IPO in 2015. Ferrari officially priced its initial public offering at $52 a share after the market close on 20 October 2015. On 10 December 2020, CEO Louis Camilleri announced that he will step down as CEO and Chairman John Elkann will step into the interim CEO role until a permanent successor is selected. On 9 June 2021, the company announced the appointment of Benedetto Vigna from Geneva-based ST Microelectronics as its next CEO. Presidents Enzo Ferrari 1939–1977, Nicola Tuffarelli 1978–1980, Giovanni Esquazini 1980–1984, Vittorio Guidella 1984–1988, Pietro Fusaro 1988–1991, Luca Cordero di Montezemolo 1991–2014, Sergio Marchionne 2014–2018, Louis Camilleri 2018–2020, John Elkann 2020. Motorsport. Since the company's beginnings, Ferrari has been involved in motorsport, competing in a range of categories, including Formula One and sports car racing through its Scuderia Ferrari sporting division, as well as supplying cars and engines to other teams and for one-make race series. 1940 AAC 815 was the first racing car to be designed by Enzo Ferrari, although it was not badged as a Ferrari model. Scuderia Ferrari. Scuderia Ferrari has participated in several classes of motorsport, though it is currently only officially involved in Formula One. It is the only team to have competed in the Formula One World Championship continuously since its inception in 1950. José Froilán González gave the team its first phone victory At the 1951 British Grand Prix, Alberto Ascari gave Ferrari its first drivers' championship a year later. Ferrari is the oldest team in the championship and the most successful. The team holds nearly every Formula One record. As of 2014, the team's records include 15 World Drivers' Championship titles, 16 World Constructors' Championship titles, 221 Grand Prix victories, 6,736.27 points, 679 podium finishes, 207 pole positions. Of the 19 tracks used in 2014, 8 have lap records set by the F2004, with a further 3 set by the F2003 GA, F2008 and F10. Ferrari drivers include Tazio Nuvolari, José Froilán González, Juan Manuel Fangio, Alberto Ascari, Luigi Cinti, Eugenio Castellotti, Maurice Trintignant, Wolfgang von Trips, Phil Hill, Olivier Gendebien, Mike Hawthorne, Peter Collins, Giancarlo Baghetti, Ricardo Rodriguez, Chris. At the end of the 2006 season, the team courted controversy by continuing to allow Marlboro to sponsor them after they, along with the other phone teams, made a promise to end sponsorship deals with tobacco manufacturers. A 5-year deal was agreed, and although this was not due to end until 2011, in April 2008 Marlboro dropped their on-car branding on Ferrari. In addition to Formula One, Ferrari also entered cars in sports car racing, the two programs existing in parallel for many years. In 1949, Luigi Cinti drove a 166M to Ferrari's first win in motorsports, the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Ferrari went on to dominate the early years of the World Sports Car Championship, which was created in 1953, winning the title 7 out of its first 9 years. When the championship format changed in 1962, Ferrari earned titles in at least one class each year through to 1965, and then again in 1967. Ferrari would win one final title, the 1972 World Championship of Makes, before Enzo decided to leave sports car racing after 1973 and allow Scuderia Ferrari to concentrate solely on Formula One. During Ferrari's seasons of the World Sports Cars Championship, they also gained more wins at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, with the factory team earning their first in 1954. Another win would come in 1958, followed by 5 consecutive wins from 1960 to 1964. Luigi Cinti's North American racing team NART would take Ferrari's final victory at Le Mans in 1965. Although Scuderia Ferrari no longer participated in sports cars after 1973, they have occasionally built various successful sports cars for privateers. These include the BB512 LM in the 1970s, the 333 S.p.A, which won the IMSA GT Championship in the 1990s, and currently the 458 GT2 and GT3, which are currently winning championships in their respective classes. Race cars for other teams. Throughout its history, Ferrari has supplied racing cars to other entrants, aside from its own works Scuderia Ferrari team. In the 1950s and 60s, Ferrari supplied Formula One cars. One famous example was Tony Vandervelde's team, which raced the thin-wall special modified Ferraris before building their own van-wall cars. The North American racing team's entries in the final 3 rounds of the 1969 season were the last occasions on which a team other than Scuderia Ferrari entered a World Championship Grand Prix with a Ferrari car. Ferrari supplied cars complete with V8 engines for the Aeon Grand Prix series from the 2008-9 season. The car was designed by Rory Byon and is styled to resemble the 2004 Ferrari Formula One car. Ferrari currently runs a customer GT program for a racing version of its 458 and has done so for the 458's predecessors, dating back to the 355 in the late 1990s. Such private teams as the American Racing Competizione and Italian Ave Corse teams have been very successful with Ferrari GT racers over the years. This car, made for endurance sports car racing to compete against such racing versions of the Audi RATE, McLaren M12C, and the BMW Z4 EIT9 has proven to be successful, but not as successful as its predecessor, the F430. The Ferrari Challenge is a one-make racing series for the Ferrari 458. The FXX is not road legal and is therefore only used for track events. Road cars. The first vehicle made with the Ferrari name was the 125S. Only two of this small two-seat sports/racing V12 car were made. In 1949, the 166 Inter was introduced, marking the company's significant move into the Grand Touring road car market. The first 166 Inter was a four-seat 2+2 Berlinetta coupe with bodywork designed by Carrozzeria Touring Superleggera. Road cars quickly became the bulk of Ferrari sales. The early Ferrari cars typically featured bodywork designed and customized by independent coach builders such as Pininfarina, Scaglietti, Zagato, Vignale, and Bertone. The original road cars were typically two-seat front-engined V12s. This platform served Ferrari very well through the 1950s and 1960s. In 1968, the Dino was introduced as the first two-seat rear mid-engined Ferrari. The Dino was produced primarily with a V6 engine, however, a V8 model was also developed. This rear mid-engine layout would go on to be used in many Ferraris of the 1980s, 1990s, and to the present day. Current road cars typically use V8 or V12 engines, with V8 models making up well over half of the marque's total production. Historically, Ferrari has also produced flat 12 engines. For a time, Ferrari built 2+2 versions of its mid-engined V8 cars. Although they looked quite different from their two-seat counterparts, both the GT4 and Mondial were closely related to the 308 GTB. Ferrari entered the mid-engined 12-cylinder fray with the Berlinetta Boxer in 1973. The later Testarossa, also mid-engined 12 cylinders, remains one of the most popular and famous Ferrari road cars of all time. The company has also produced several front-engined 2+2 cars, culminating in the recent V12 model Lusso and V8 models Roma, Portofino, and Lusso T. The California is credited with initiating the popular current model line of V8 front-engined 2+2 Grand Touring Performance sports cars. Starting in the early 2010s with the LaFerrari, the focus was shifted away from the use of independent coach builders to what is now the standard, Ferrari relying on in-house design from the Centro-style Ferrari for the design of all its road cars. Current models. Customization. In the 1950s and 1960s, clients often personalized their vehicles as they came straight from the factory. This philosophy added to the mystique of the brand. Every Ferrari that comes out of Maranello is built to an individual customer's specification. In this sense, each vehicle is a unique result of a specific client's desire. Ferrari formalized this concept with its earlier Carrozzeria Scaglietti program. The options offered here were more typical, such as racing seats, rear-view cameras, and other special trim. In late 2011, Ferrari announced a significant update of this philosophy. The tailor-made program allows clients to work with designers in Maranello to make decisions at every step of the process. Through this program, almost any trim, any exterior color, or any interior material is possible. The program carries on the original tradition and emphasizes the idea of each car being unique. Supercars. The 1984 288 GTO may be considered the first in the line of Ferrari supercars. This pedigree extends through the Enzo Ferrari to the LaFerrari. In February 2019, at the 89th Geneva International Motor Show, Ferrari revealed its latest mid-engine V8 supercar, the Fiat Tributo. Ferrari SF90 Stradale is the first ever Ferrari to feature PHEV plug-in hybrid electric vehicle architecture which sees the internal combustion engine integrated with three electric motors, two of which are independent and located on the front axle, with the third at the rear between the engine and the gearbox. Concept cars and specials. Ferrari has produced a number of concept cars, such as the Mythos. While some of these were quite radical, such as the Modulo, and never intended for production, others, such as the Mythos, have shown styling elements that were later incorporated into production models. The most recent concept car to be produced by Ferrari themselves was the 2010 Millicoli. A number of one-off special versions of Ferrari road cars have also been produced, commissioned to coach builders by wealthy owners. Recent examples include the Ferrari and the 412 Kappa. Ferrari Special Projects. The Special Projects program was launched in the late 2000s as Ferrari's ultimate in-house personalization service, enabling customers to own bespoke-bodied one-offs based on modern Ferrari road cars. Engineering and design is done by Ferrari, sometimes in cooperation with external design houses like Pininfarina or Fioravanti, and the vehicles receive full homologation to be road legal. The first car to be completed under this program was the 2008 S.p.A, commissioned by a Japanese business executive. The following is a list of special projects cars that have been made public. Biofuel and hybrid cars. An F430 Spider that runs on ethanol was displayed at the 2008 Detroit Auto Show. At the 2010 Geneva Motor Show, Ferrari unveiled a hybrid version of their flagship 599. Called the HY Curves Concept, Ferrari's hybrid system is more than 100 horsepower on top of the 599 Fiorano's 612 HP. Also in mid-Minus 2014, the flagship LaFerrari was put into production. Naming conventions. From the beginning, the Ferrari naming convention consisted of a three-digit unitary displacement of an engine cylinder with an additional suffix representing the purpose of a vehicle. Therefore, Ferrari 125S had 1.5 L 1496.77 cc V12 engine with a unitary displacement of 124.73 cc, whilst S suffix represented sport. Other race cars also received names invoking particular races, like Ferrari 166 for Mille Miglia. With the introduction of road-going models, the suffix Inter was added, inspired by the Scuderia Inter racing team of Igor Trubetskoy. Popular at that time 166 series had 2.0 L 1995.2 cc engines with 166.25 cc of unitary displacement and a very diverse two-hoe. Later series of road cars were renamed Europa and top-of-the-line series America and Super America. Until the early 1990s, Ferrari followed a three-number naming scheme based on engine displacement and a number of cylinders. V6 and V8 models used the total displacement in deciliters for the first two digits and the number of cylinders as the third. Thus, the 206 was a 2.0 L V6 powered vehicle, while the 348 used a 3.4 L V8, although for the F355, the last digit refers to 5 valves per cylinder. Upon introduction of the 360 Modena, the digits for V8 models, which now carried a name as well as a number, refer only to total engine displacement. The numerical indication aspect of this name carried on to the F430, the F430's replacement, the 458 Italia. The 488 uses the system formerly used by the V12 cars. V12 models used the displacement in cubic centimeters of one cylinder. Therefore, the famed 365 Daytona had a 4,390 cc 268 Cuin V12. However, some newer V12-engined Ferraris, such as the 599, have three-number designations that refer only to total engine displacement, or boxer-style designations such as the nominally 6-liter V12 612. Boxer 12 models used the displacement in liters for the first digit and the number of cylinders for the next two digits. Therefore, The BB 512 was 5-liter flat 12, a Berlinetta Boxer in this case. However, the original Berlinetta Boxer was the 365 GT4 BB, which was named in a similar manner to the V12 models. Flagship models aka Halo cars use the letter F followed by the anniversary in years, such as the F40 and F50. The Enzo skipped this rule, although the F60 name was applied to a Ferrari Formula One car. Some models, such as the 1980 Mondial and 1984 Testarossa, did not follow a three-number naming scheme. Most Ferraris were also given designations referring to their body style. In general, the following conventions were used. A modificata, placed at the end of a model's number, denotes a modified version of its predecessor and not a complete evolution. See F512M and 575M Maranello. GTB Gran Turismo Berlinetta models are closed Berlinettas or coupes. GTS Gran Turismo Scoperta. This suffix can be seen in older Spiders or convertibles. See 365 GTS/4. Now, the convertible models use the suffix Spider spelt ICF 355 Spider and 360 Spider. In more recent models, this suffix is used for Targa top models. See Dino 246 GTS and a 355 GTS, which is an absolutely correct use of the suffix, since scoperta means uncovered. An increasing number of people tend to refer to GTS as Gran Turismo Spider, which creates the false assumption that Ferrari does not know the difference between Spider and Targa. The 348 TS, which is the only Targa named differently, is an exception. GTO Gran Turismo Omologata, placed at the end of a model's number, denotes a modified version of its predecessor. It designates a model that has been designed and improved for racetrack use while still being street legal. Only 3 models bear those 3 letters: the 250 GTO of 1962, the 288 GTO of 1984, and the 599 GTO of 2010. This naming system can be confusing, as some entirely different vehicles used the same engine type and body style. Many Ferraris also had other names affixed, like Daytona, to identify them further. Many such names are actually not official factory names. The Daytona name commemorates Ferrari's triple success in the February 1967 24 Hours of Daytona with the 330 Fur. Only in the 1973 Daytona 24 Hours, a 365 GTB/4 run by Nart, who raced Ferraris in America, ran second, behind a Porsche 911. The various Dino models were named for Enzo's son, Dino Ferrari, and were marketed as Dinos by Ferrari and sold at Ferrari dealers. For all intents and purposes, they are Ferraris. In the mid-1990s, Ferrari added the letter F to the beginning of all models, a practice abandoned after the F512M and F355, but adopted again with the F430, but not with its successor, the Ferrari 458. Identity. The famous symbol of the Ferrari race team is the cavallino rampant prancing horse, black prancing stallion on a yellow shield, usually with the letters SF for Scuderia Ferrari, with 3 stripes of green, white, and red, the Italian national colors, at the top. The road cars have a rectangular badge on the hood. See picture at top of page, and, optionally, the shield-shaped race logo on the sides of both front wings, close to the door. On 17 June 1923, Enzo Ferrari won a race at the Savio track in Ravenna, where he met Countess Paolina, mother of Count Francesco Baracca, an ace of the Italian Air Force and national hero of World War I, who used to paint a horse on the side of his planes. The Countess asked Enzo to use this horse on his cars, suggesting that it would bring him good luck. The original prancing horse on Baracca's airplane was painted in red on a white cloud-like shape, but Ferrari chose to have the horse in black, as it had been painted as a sign of grief on Baracca's squadron planes after the pilot was killed in action. and he added a canary yellow background as this is the color of the city of Modena, his birthplace. The Ferrari horse was, from the very beginning, markedly different from the Baracca horse in most details, the most noticeable being the tail that in the original Baracca version was pointing downward. Ferrari has used the Cavallino rampant on official company stationery since 1929. Since the SPA 24 hours of 9 July 1932, the Cavallino rampant has been used on Alfa Romeos raced by Scuderia Ferrari. The motif of a prancing horse is old. It can be found on ancient coins. A similar black horse on a yellow shield is the coat of arms of the German city of Stuttgart, home of Mercedes-Benz and the design bureau of Porsche, both being main competitors of Alfa and Ferrari in the 1930s. The city's name derives from Stutengarten, an ancient form of the German word Gestadt, which translates into English as stud farm and into Italian as Scuderia. Porsche also includes the Stuttgart sign in its corporate logo, scented in the emblem of the state of Württemberg. Stuttgart's Rossel has both rear legs firmly planted on the soil, like Baracca's horse, but unlike Ferrari's Cavallino. Fabio Taglioni used the Cavallino rampant on his Ducati motorbikes, as Taglioni was born at Lugo di Romagna like Baracca, and his father too was a military pilot during WWI, although not part of Baracca's squadron, as is sometimes mistakenly reported. As Ferrari's fame grew, Ducati abandoned the horse, perhaps the result of a private agreement between the two companies. The Cavallino rampant is the visual symbol of Ferrari. Cavallino magazine uses the name, but not the logo. Other companies use similar logos. Avanti, an Austrian company operating over 100 filling stations, uses a prancing horse logo. Color. Since the 1920s, Italian race cars of Alfa Romeo, Maserati, and later Ferrari and Abarth were and often still are painted in race red rosso corsa. This was the customary national racing color of Italy, as recommended between the world wars by the organizations that later would become the FIA. It refers to the nationality of the competing team, not that of the car manufacturer or driver. In that scheme, French entered cars such as Bugatti were blue, Germans such as Auto Union and Mercedes white since 1934 also bear sheet metal silver, and British green such as the Midminus 1960's Lotus and BRM, for instance. Ferrari won the 1964 World Championship with John Surtees by competing for the last two races in North America, with cars painted in the U.S. American race colors white and blue, as these were not entered by the Italian factory themselves, but by the U.S.-based North American racing team NART team. This was done as a protest concerning arguments between Ferrari and the Italian racing authorities regarding the homologation of a new mid-engined Ferrari race car. Corporate affairs. In 1963, Enzo Ferrari was approached by the Ford Motor Company about a possible buyout. Ford audited Ferrari's assets, but legal negotiations and talks were unilaterally cut off by Ferrari when he realized that the deal offered by Ford would not enable him to stay at the helm of the company racing program. Henry Ford Roman II consequently directed his racing division to negotiate with Lotus, Lola, and Cooper to build a car capable of beating Ferrari on the World Endurance Circuit, eventually resulting in the production of the Ford GT40 in 1964. As the Ford deal fell through, Fiat approached Ferrari with a more flexible proposal and purchased controlling interests in the company in 1969. Enzo Ferrari retained a 10% share, which is currently owned by his son Piero Ferrari. Ferrari has an internally managed merchandising line. Ferrari also runs a museum, the Museo Ferrari in Maranello, which displays road and race cars and other items from the company's history. Formula Uomo program. In 1997, Ferrari launched a long-term master-planned effort to improve overall corporate efficiency, production, and employee happiness. The program was called Formula Uomo and became a case study in social sustainability. It took over 10 years to fully implement and included over EUR 200 million 2008 in investment. Technical partnerships. Ferrari has had a long-standing relationship with Shell Oil. It is a technical partnership with Ferrari and Ducati to test as well as supply fuel and oils to the Formula One, MotoGP, and World Superbike racing teams. For example, the Shell V-Power premium gasoline fuel has been developed with the many years of technical expertise between Shell and Ferrari. Ferrari has had agreements to supply Formula One engines to a number of other teams over the years and currently supply the Alfa Romeo and Haas-phone teams. Sales history. As of the end of 2019, the total of Ferrari built and sold cars in their whole company history is 219,062. Annual Ferrari sales to end customers number of type-approved vehicles. Figure refers to units produced rather than to units sold. Figure refers to units shipped rather than to units sold. Stores. Roughly 30 Ferrari boutiques exist worldwide, with 2 owned by Ferrari and the rest operating as franchises. The stores sell branded clothes, accessories, and racing memorabilia. Clothing includes upscale and lower-priced collections for men, women, and children. Some stores include race car simulation games for entertainment. Attractions. There are currently 2 Ferrari-themed amusement parks in the world. Ferrari World Abu Dhabi, opened in 2010. Ferrari World Abu Dhabi is the first Ferrari-branded theme park in the world and boasts 37 rides and attractions. Located on Yas Island in Abu Dhabi, it is home to the world's fastest roller coaster Formula Rossa and a dynamic coaster with one of the world's tallest loop flying aces. Ferrari Land in Port Aventura, opened in 2017. Ferrari Land in Port Aventura World Resort is the second such Ferrari-themed amusement park in the world, after Ferrari World Abu Dhabi. With 16 rides and attractions, it is home to Europe's fastest and highest vertical accelerator coaster Red Force. General references. Gustafsson, Eric, Cavallino Rampant, Sports Car International Oct/Nav 2094. Adler, Dennis, Ferrari The Road from Maranello. Random House 2006. ISBN 978-1-4000-6000, 463-2.